testifiers that will be following this group. Go ahead. Welcome.
Good morning, members of the Joint Finance Committee. Thank you for this opportunity to rise and address this important committee. My name is Sean Daly, and I'm a staff representative for AFSCME. And in my position as such, I have worked with the Department of Corrections personnel for almost 2 decades. I'd be willing to bet that most Wisconsinites have some level of familiarity of Lincoln Hills School and the general dysfunction that plagues that facility. By the end of the day today, you will have heard several frontline essential Lincoln Hill employees who will provide testimony on the harsh cultures that these workers endure, which are conditioned with routine violence, routine property damage, routine sexual assaults, and sexual misconduct.
We need to put a little context behind what this guy is talking about. Guards at Lincoln Hills and Copper Lake abuse children.
In 2016, the scale of this abuse was uncovered by journalists and then federal investigators. Guards were caught beating kids, pepper spraying them, putting them in solitary confinement, and even helping them attempt suicide.
It was bad. Bad enough that even Scott Walker and his gerrymandered legislature knew they had to do something at the time.
So, these guys are whining about changes made to protect children from abuse by guards like them.
If upon leaving this session, any one of the members of this committee were to inquire with the Division of Juvenile Corrections Administrator on the status of the facility, you will likely hear that it's improving. There's not a time in history where such a statement would be more untrue for workers than today.
For workers is the key phrase here. For kids, it's a completely different story after the new administration.
Yeah, kids aren't getting sprayed, raped, beaten, and locked in solitary as much anymore.
Even better, tons of them have been released. Thanks to locally focused organizing by Youth Justice MKE, the population of Lincoln Hills and Copper Lake is down by 444% since 2015.
That's a lot. That place was designed to hold 548 kids, and it currently holds
58.
These guards are scared of 58 children.
Yes.
The facts and the data that the Lincoln Hills employees will have shared with this committee by day's end, and also what they have used to bring matters of significant public interest to light, have resulted in targeted and retaliatory disciplinary investigations and retribution, and have received threats of reprisal from the DJC administration, which demonstrates a shocking reality complicating their work lives even further. If this legislature finds itself hamstrung by the nuances of transitioning this facility to an adult facility in an expedited manner, or even worse, if this legislature punts in 2024 like the previous one did, then my ask of this committee is to respectfully join in the effort to demand that workers' concerns are silenced and threatened no longer. My ask of this committee is to respectfully join in the effort of replacing the current DJC administrator and his obliviousness to the fire that's engulfing that facility.
I'm sorry, who is he talking about firing?
Not sure. Too chicken shit to name names. Maybe the current superintendent, Clint Trevino, but he's worked there a long time and he used to be the security director, so maybe he's talking about the head of the DJC, Ron Hermes, who used to work for the Department of Children and Families doing stuff like foster care. That might be someone who actually cares about children.
Anyway, trying to fire someone because they won't let you abuse kids is kind of fucked up.
Yeah, feels like these guys can't wait for it to become an adult facility so they can abuse somebody. Fewer people get upset about adults getting abused.
Also, kids fight back more often.
My name is Ron Coleman, and I have been a youth counselor at Lincoln Hills for 10 years. I'm also a member of the Public Employees Union, AFSCME. I'm testifying today to advocate for a swift transition of Lincoln Hills to an adult facility. Although the governor's budget proposal seeks for full transition in 2024, the safety of frontline DOC staff is compromised every day at Lincoln Hills operates, especially under the current management. Everyday staff are targeted by the youth if staff write them up for misconduct. What might seem childish amount of some youth threatening to rape and murder staff and their families. Female staff are especially targeted and experience sexual misconduct, including exposure of genitals and masturbation with the purpose of tormenting them.
No matter how lurid this guy's description of what abused kids are doing gets, it doesn't change the fact that a developing human getting punishment on top of punishment creates and maintains a cycle of violence.
Adults who put the responsibility to break that cycle of violence onto the children that they've abused are just being fucking dumb.
This harassment is commonplace. A female staff member had their buttocks grabbed 3 times by a youth, and no discipline was provided other than requiring the youth to write a 500-word essay. I asked the question to the members of this committee: is a 500-word essay an appropriate punishment for someone who assaults a state worker?
Punishing kids for bad behavior doesn't work. I'm a public school teacher. We see some of these same types of behaviors all the time.
So what do you do when it happens?
We de-escalate. We use restorative justice and build positive relationships on the front end so that we have a positive culture. When your goal is just getting revenge instead of restoration, you create that negative culture and see more of that negative behavior.
So like this 500-word essay he's talking about, that might have been part of a restorative justice process where the child reflects on what happened and how it affected the other person?
Absolutely.
What if that worker was you or a loved one? Would that punishment be just? Between 2019 and 2020, 214 incidences of sexual misconduct occurred, ranging from explicit and vulgar comments to exposing oneself or touching staff. These rates show that Lincoln Hills management has failed to their duty to create a safe work environment for the staff in our facility where our youth can receive the care they need. Under the current management, a culture of harassment and assaults flourish. When management refuses to take appropriate reaction to prevent harassment, it seems that the message that staff are expendable and worthy of mistreatment. We should not endure sexual harassment or assault in the workplace or violence, and not be intimidated in order to feed our families and keep our communities safe.
Finally, some common ground. Yes, close Lincoln Hills and Copper Lake.
Kids from Milwaukee clearly aren't getting help from these youth counselors.
Ron Coleman, you are bad at your job. You should stop doing it.
As a matter of public safety, we ask for your commitment as members of the Joint Committee of Finance to ensure the transition of Lincoln Hills to an adult facility. Thank you.
Members of the Joint Committee on Finance, my name is Dave Tinker. I'm here today in capacity as a youth counselor at Lincoln Hills School and a member of ASME Public Employees Union. I've worked at Lincoln Hills School for 7.5 years. Every day I face threats to my life, my coworkers' lives, and the safety of youth in our care. Management's inability to create a safe work environment has exacerbated an already dangerous environment and made it potentially dangerous. I'd like to share some figures that we pulled together from 6 months period in 2020 under the current Lincoln Hills administration in comparison to the first 6 months of the 2020 under the previous administration. Mechanical restraints increased by 10%, youth-on-youth fighting increased by 50%, incidents of use of force increased by 58%, sexual misconduct increased by 75%, youth staff battery increased by 117%, group disturbance increased by 158%, and the most striking number is staff injury increased by 4,700%.
All these stats he's rattling off, they're based on the number of reports filed by guards. So, what we're seeing here is a guard reciting numbers that guards basically produced or inflated.
Under the previous administration, they probably filed fewer complaints because they weren't actively looking to make the administrator look bad.
We as youth counselors signed up to Lincoln Hills knowing we'd be doing an essential, dangerous job. The youth in our care of the state of Wisconsin deserve the opportunity to have a correct programming where they have the tools to avoid recidivism. That cannot happen with the rates of violence that happen on a daily basis at Lincoln Hills. We cannot wait until a staff member or a youth is murdered. We cannot wait for things to get worse. I ask that you support the governor's provision on his budget proposal to transfer Lincoln Hills to an adult facility. We ask that you go a step farther. We ask that it's not enough to wait until 2024. The staff at Lincoln Hills Copper Lake asks that you address the needs of the youth while protecting our essential Department of Correction workers. Our lives are at risk every day we go to work. Please take action before it's too late.
Common ground again, we agree. The Joint Finance Committee should go a step further. They should close Lincoln Hills and Copper Lake now.
The governor's budget has a plan that will remove kids from harm caused by these guys who keep working jobs that they are clearly not good at.
It's great. Even their invited speakers want the Joint Finance Committee to agree with the governor.
I bet they won't, though.
Assholes.
My name is Anthony Bullard, and I work at Lincoln Hills as a youth counselor. I'm a proud AFSCME union member and an essential worker. As an essential worker, I'm proud to work in a state facility to keep our communities safe. Unfortunately, under the Lincoln Hills management, our facilities have gone unsustainable to dangerous. To date, youth have destroyed tens of thousands of dollars of state property. Windows are broken so frequently that they are simply being replaced with plywood boards. This causes a safety issue, especially when staff cannot see where the youth are located. Youth in our care deserve better than facilities held together by plywood board.
Whenever he says youth in our care, I cringe. The new DOC administration has made a point of always saying people in our care because everybody gets upset when you say things like prisoner or offender.
Yeah, so these guys have learned the politically correct, liberal certified language, but it's clearly not helping them humanize the kids that they hold captive.
They still put their own safety way above the safety of the children in their care.
Right.
In another instance, doors at Lincoln Hills are tethered shut because they've been so badly vandalized. This setup creates a fire hazard. 3 control center booths have been terribly damaged, including monitors necessary to observe the youth and telephones for communication. Windows are shattered and youth have physically entered these booths.
Humanity hates a cage. If everyone trapped in prison broke windows, took over guard posts, and otherwise got as wild as these kids, then putting people in cages gets a lot harder to do.
You know, we've tried appealing to people's conscience or moral righteousness. We've tried talking about saving money, and these people don't care. Attacking the prisons directly and rendering them inoperable might be the thing that actually works.
Direct action gets the goods. Youth liberation now!
If we cannot maintain proper repair of our facilities, we cannot be successful in any of the tasks that we say we care about. Our essential state workers deserve to have their facilities invested in. Our communities deserve to be safe, which cannot happen when our facilities are falling apart. This condition of Lincoln Hills is shameful and above all dangerous to all the individuals. I am testifying today representing fellow workers.
Prison guards are not workers. They are the enemy of the working class, the lackeys of capital. Their inclusion in AFSCME poisons the entire organization.
Remember a few years ago when we marched at the Labor Day parade right behind AFSCME in solidarity with striking prisoners?
Yeah, we still have the same thing to say to AFSCME that we did on that day.
No class traitors in our movement! Kick the COs out your union!
At Lincoln Hills, requesting that you use your power to support the quick transition of Lincoln Hills into an adult facility. We simply ask you prioritize our safety as much as we prioritize yours. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our invited speakers.
That's right. The Joint Finance Committee gave these child abusers special invited speaker status. Over the course of the hearing, dozens of actual state workers who teach, provide healthcare, counseling, treatment, provide actual services, and improve people's lives did testify.
The JFC elevates these chuckleheads all over all the rest of them. Shows what their values and priorities are.
Hurting kids.